Another setting within your camera that is definitely worth knowing about is white balance. Now, white balance is not exactly the most intuitive of terms, but essentially, light is different colours. Daylight during the height of the day is a different colour to how it is later in the day, how it is in the morning. Lights that you buy for your rooms are sometimes more towards orange, sometimes more towards white. This is sometimes indicated in something called the colour temperature of the light, which is usually demarked with a K for Kelvin. The higher the number, the closer towards blue it is. The lower the number, the closer towards yellow it is. A white light is normally between 5,600 Kelvin and 6,500 Kelvin. Now, your eyes are incredibly good at adapting and knowing that this wall behind me is white, regardless of what colour the light is. Electronic devices like cameras don't work like our eyes. If a yellow light is shined against a yellow device, against a yellow wall, the camera will see it as yellow, unless you tell the camera what colour that light is, and you would do that by setting the white balance. In various cameras, you have different ways of setting the light-white balance. You can either choose what are meant to be sensible, obvious settings. They'll be called things like daylight, shade, nighttime, tungsten, which is old-fashioned light bulbs, flash, etc. And those will give approximate values that will work most of the time. In more advanced cameras, you can also set the exact colour temperature by dialing in the Kelvin number. Now, in most cameras, you will also have what is called auto white balance, or AWB. A modern camera can sense the colour of the light, and it can adjust the white balance itself in order to achieve a white wall appearing white in the image. I would suggest that as a beginner, even as an experienced photographer, that most of the time, to keep your life simple, you would shoot using auto white balance, unless you know the lighting conditions are particularly tricky, in which case you can choose to set it manually, either because you know exactly what the number for the light is, or you can use something called a grey card to set it. Now, these lessons are meant to be beginner lessons or fundamental refreshers, so I'm not going to go into how to set that. I would simply suggest that most of the time you should shoot auto white balance. And if you are shooting in RAW format in your camera, it doesn't matter anyway. You can correct it later in your software. If you are shooting in JPEG, you could get the occasional odd photo where the white balance is wrong, and in that case, just occasionally review them on the back of your camera and change the white balance if need be. But in modern cameras, I'd say anything made since maybe 2005, the auto white balance is going to be good enough 99.9% of the time. But it's important to know that if your photo appears to be discoloured and not quite right, it's probably that the white balance is incorrect. And you may have actually set a white balance by mistake rather than being an auto white balance, or the auto white balance may be being fooled somehow and you should change it. This often happens when you're using flash, and an older camera doesn't realise you're using flash and it uses a white balance based upon the environment rather than changing the flash mode. In those circumstances, you can change it yourself to flash auto white balance, or 5600 is what I would use for flash, 5600 Kelvin if you have that option. So this lesson is part of a series of lessons for beginners and fundamental refreshers. The next lesson should be up here. There'll be a playlist of lessons up here, so you can start from the beginning. They are in a logical order. If there's not one up there yet, it's because I haven't published it yet. Subscribe to the channel so that you can find out when it is published. I hope you found this helpful.